No one saw this coming. Buffalo Bills general manager Brandon Beane has halted any contract talks with superstar running back James Cook. Cook has been very vocal about getting a $15 million contract after a successful season. However, this is not something the Bills will be able to afford due to their salary cap, and because of this, they have looked for other options of running back when it comes to the draft and in free agencies. My name is Maeve Miller. I'm a part of the Bills Digest team, so please subscribe to the Bills Digest YouTube channel for all the latest updates during this offseason. So I want to talk a little about Cook's contract. His rookie contract was 4 years and is $5.83 million, and with $2.39 million guaranteed and a $1.42 million signing bonus. And this is a lot of money for a running back. I do like Cook a lot. I think he's added so much to the Bills. You can see in plays like this, he really puts his body on the line and just plays very well. I think he's part of the reason why the Bills have been so successful in the past few years. However, it's just not realistic for the Bills to pay one player $15 million. And they're already a team that has struggled with a salary cap, and I think Beane has been very strategic about this. We've had one of the best free agencies out of all the NFL teams, and I just think that he knows this is not possible for the Bills to sign him for this amount of money. And there was a quote from him kind of talking about this. He said, "I would say his reps and him put it out there that we did talk, so I'm not sharing anything new. It didn't lean to anything as far as closing on a deal, so we moved on to guys we're more on the same page with." And I think that just definitely shows that they're not on the same page. And I think from his social media posts, just about being very vocal, you can tell he's not on the same page. And Beane even said that we're moving on. We're moving on to other guys, and we're just going to focus on the draft. They've had a great free agency offseason, and I think it's smart to just move on to the draft and see what they can do. It's also possible for the Bills to franchise tag him. It's not something that they do often, but this is when a player will sign a one-year contract, and it just kind of guarantees that they won't sign with anyone else. With the Bills, he would be with the Bills for that year, and he can't join another team if he agrees to the deal. And this just gives the Bills more time to renegotiate his contract. And I think while the Bills don't do this often, other teams like the Bengals have done this with T. Higgins, and it has turned very successful. So I think it is an option. It just gives them more time to figure out a contract, because I would love for Cook to be on the Bills. I think he's a great player, but people have been a little bit iffy about this just due to how he's been in the public. This is a quote I saw on Twitter, and it said, "I sure hope that James Cook didn't bluster himself out of the Buffalo Bills' future plans. He should fire his agent, stop the social media games, and reset negotiations ASAP. Buffalo needs a Super Bowl. No one wants Diggs 2.0 ruin the vibe." Well, this is very harsh, firing his agent. I don't know about all of that, but I do agree with the social media games. It has been a little Diggs-esque, and it just kind of puts a stain on his time with the Bills. It definitely did with Diggs. Him talking on social media, kind of negatively about the Bills, and just locker room issues definitely hurt Diggs' career after being so successful. And I'm not saying that Cook is going about this the same way, because I think his personality is very different from Stefon Diggs, but it definitely has had people talking and just a little bit worried. And I agree with this guy. I hope he doesn't bluster himself out of any other plans, because I do want him to be with them for the future. It just depends on if he's willing to take a lower contract, put aside his pride. But just based on all this talk, he's been on social media multiple times just saying $15 million this, $15 million that. And running backs are in talks. They're getting more money. People like Saquon Barkley have just been showing that running backs do deserve to get paid as much as a running back or as a wide receiver. I do think he deserves to be paid, and I want him on the Bills, but it's just not in the Bills' best interest to do this. So we'll have to see what happens with that. But if the Bills do decide to do a different route, there is a draft coming up, and a notable player is LaQuint Allen, who's a running back out of Syracuse. And an analyst from the Sporting News did say that he believes that the Bills would draft LaQuint Allen in the 3rd round. Obviously, the Bills, not sure about that. I think the focus for the draft should be on defensive positions like defensive tackle and cornerback. That is what they're looking for. Their offense is already very strong. There's really no issues when it comes to the playoffs. Their offense against the Chiefs, they were neck and neck with them, and it's a defense that definitely needs a little more of a step up. But if the Bills end up getting those positions, they do have their draft order. I don't think they would end up drafting a running back 30th, 56th, even 62nd. But if it gets down to those later numbers and they've filled those defensive roles, I don't think it could be a bad thing to draft a running back. Allen is a very strong player. He is 6'4", 240 pounds, and his stats at Syracuse really show how good he was as a player. In total, he had over 2,030 yards in his career, rushing yards in his career and 32 touchdowns, which is very impressive. And there's a little breakdown of each year. 2022, he was a freshman, so the stats weren't as strong, but in 2023, he really exploded with 1,064 rushing yards, 9 touchdowns, and then for receiving, he had 38 receptions with 210 yards and 1 touchdown. These numbers got better. 228 carries for 1,021 yards, 16 touchdowns, 64 receptions, 521 receiving yards, and 4 touchdowns. So having 32 touchdowns in your career is just very impressive at 3 years at Syracuse. And I just think his build being that big of a guy, it's kind of Derrick Henry-esque where you're strong, but you're still agile and quick, can make those big plays. I think it'd be exciting for the Bills to have more of a franchise running back. We haven't really seen that. We've had a couple in the past. The last couple of years, Singletary for a couple of years, but none of them really stayed for as long. So it'd be interesting to see to draft someone fresh and young and at the peak of their career. But like I said, it's not the Bills' main priority. So yes, his analyst was talking about this, but I'm not sure. I think if the Bills were to draft him, it'd be good he'd be in the backup role for the 2025 season with Cook still on the team. And then I think in the next year, depending on what the Bills do, he could be more comfortable with them and just used to playing at the NFL level. And he could rise to be the running back 1. Obviously, yes, not sure about how this would happen. But if the Bills do go more of a solely defensive route for the draft, it's exciting that they do have other options when it comes to running backs. And that brings me to Ty Johnson and Ray Davis, who are 2 of my favorite players on the Bills. So Johnson specifically, I think I love the way he plays. He doesn't just take running back snaps. He also has been used as a wide receiver. Notably, in this play, he had a 41-yard run against the Rams, which lessened the score differential, and it showed his versatility as not only a running back, but also as a wide receiver, which I love. Josh Allen tends to go to him more. In the beginning of the season, Johnson was a little quiet, but towards the end of the season, we saw Allen using him as a third down option, on a second and long, and just for any little plays. You can tell he has that hustle and that drive, which is something that we don't see as much with Cook, even though I think he's a great player. He only played him 40% of snaps, so backups like Johnson and Davis definitely had to step up. In the 2024 regular season, he had 213 rushing yards, a 1 rushing touchdown, and 627 total yards. So we see a lot of that. Those yards are due to receiving and 4 total touchdowns. And yeah, those stats aren't crazy, but I think it shows that he's very supplemental to Cook and Davis. Going to Davis, he has been a very good backup for James Cook. He definitely plays more of the running back role compared to Johnson, which is great. He's not as big of a guy, but is very strong, and he is under contract with the Bills for the next couple of years. So we will have him on the team. And I think it'll be exciting to see what he does in the future. They're definitely a great duo, and we can see in these stats, it kind of shows a difference in how they play. Davis definitely was getting the ball more in the beginning of the Bills season, and he was still used later on, but Johnson definitely had a big upswing, and we can see when it comes to rushing, he had 113 rushing yards, whereas Johnson had 41. He had around 400 rushing yards, and Johnson did not have nearly as much, but we see on the receiving side that Johnson had more yards with that. And I just like being able to have multiple options for this. I think it's exciting that no matter what happens with the draft or Cook, that we do have 2 players that have played very well, and they're still at kind of the peak of their career. They have more years with the Bills, and I think it'll be exciting to see what the Bills end up doing with the draft. It's in a couple of months. I don't know necessarily if they will end up drafting running back, but we do have Allen as an option. I think they should start with the defensive roles and work their way down. And I think Beane, he's very smart. I love the way he's been running this offseason. I think he will end up doing what's best. But no matter what they do, if they sign Cook to another season, if they draft a running back, that they do have many options. And the Bills are also at a very important part of their career in the last couple of years. They're on an upswing, and I think that with a couple tweaks, the Bills could be Super Bowl ready. I think those tweaks do have to be more on the defensive end, but bringing in a player like Allen definitely wouldn't hurt, and it could just strengthen them for future years. So we'll definitely see what happens in the coming weeks and months, and I think it'll be a very exciting season overall. Thank you for watching, and go Bills.